and perspective with Chris Johnson. Palpable.
Hey, how are you?
Pretty good considering.
Yeah.
It's a lot going on.
There is a lot going on.
Yeah, how are you?
Sorry, I'm just okay. Figured it out. I'm good. Like, all things considered, it's a bit of a stressful world out there, but I mean, I'm personally doing good. Emotionally it's a bit rough, but I'm good, I guess.
Yeah. You're working on an EP right now?
Yeah.
Through like a GoFundMe thing, right?
Yeah.
How's that going?
It's good. It's good to have something to distract myself, which is really nice. It's very slow going. I had these like lofty ideas of finishing it in a month, and then I don't know, man. It's especially when you have all of this time, but it's because of like, a pandemic, and then there's all the other shit going on. You find that like you need a lot of downtime just to be sane. So I've been hopping from like a song and then like self-care and then a song and then self-care. But it's good.
Yeah, I kind of, it's been a auspicious, strange pull, because like when the pandemic first hit, it was like, okay, I need to push into like having all this time to like be creative and do the things and try to like turn this into a plus. And but then even back then, way back then, when things were so much better at the early part of the pandemic, there was this weird feeling of like kind of guilt around like, okay, is it okay for me to be using this downtime to my advantage? Which was an interesting conversation to have with myself and other creatives. And it was like, once you were able to say yes to it, then it was like, okay, how do I navigate it? How do I navigate this, what you're explaining? Like, okay, I realize I need all this downtime because I'm also processing the world at large.
Yeah.
So, and then now we're in this yet, like, I don't know, unforeseen territory, which is also simultaneously a strange blessing that we're, I mean, I say that very lightly because I'm not interested in seeing anyone hurt or disparaged in any way, but I'm thankful that we're finally at a place of, it feels like we're actually having the conversation now.
Exactly. People aren't able to distract themselves away from it, which is quite beautiful, actually. Because this happened, I remember like this happened 5 years ago with like another, I mean, I don't want to get into it, but like just to
go for it.
Another like police brutality murder, and it seemed to get a bit of traction and then it just sort of faded away. But right now it's kind of impossible for anything to fade away because we have so much time, and like all we can do is watch the world,
And it keeps happening.
Yeah. And it's weird to watch it from where I am, because I'm in Vancouver, I'm in Canada. It's like, it's not really, I mean, we have our problems for sure, but it's not as extreme as it is in America. In my experience on the West Coast, I think it's a vastly different thing on the East Coast. But we have like Black Lives Matter is here is also sort of like Indigenous rights matter, because they're fucked here, So yeah, it's really good that things are changing, and the whole world watching America go through all of that is like reforming our laws. Is it's a domino effect. So that's pretty magical, but it's fucking stressful, which it should be. Anything in life that's worth its weight in salt generally has like a period of intense stress and learning and discomfort, but it's a lot. So it's really nice to have music to like focus on and go back to when I need just like an emotional cuddle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been, leaning on music pretty heavy actually, both ingesting and listening. Not, maybe not so much as a distraction as much as it is like you said, a comfort. It's like, okay, and it's kind of it's strangely for me been reminding me of like earlier times when I was much younger and didn't have the intellectual tools or capacity to kind of process what it is that I was going through. And I just ended up turning on music and turning it up loud and fucking, trying to like get through being upset at my parents or not being understood in high school or whatever my earlier, things were. And so it feels akin to that, yet my toolbox is so much more full of intellectual ability and my spirit feels more mature. So I actually have ways of expressing myself that, through my vocabulary and through dialogue with other intellectual humans, as well as trying to sit down with a guitar and write music and be a part of that too.
I hear you. I feel the same. Yeah. And I find when you do try to just take a break from it all and sit down and write music, normally subconsciously everything just comes out anyways, and it's like such a release, even when you don't necessarily mean to work through your shit. You just end up doing it through music, and I think that's important.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, well, it's kind of funny how when you don't even mean to sit down. I mean, I think a lot of what's happening now, at least from my viewpoint, is that everything has to do with this. Everything, like all aspects of, you're finding out how it's all intertwined. Like there's no separating of this and that. Like it is, and how you're affected and how you're perceiving, how you're processing what's going on in the world right now is going to show up. It's going to manifest in your personal life somewhere right now. And that is a strange beauty of it. That's the strange beauty of it, is that like, we're not sweeping this under the rug. I mean, you can keep trying.
Yeah.
Like we can keep, if you're really into drugs or alcohol or any type of addiction, then you can try and mask it and go through that, but it will show up and manifest. And as you said, it's not comfortable. It's not a comfortable thing. And especially, I know a lot of white people are really not comfortable right now. And it's like going sideways, right, on the internet and in personal lives. And they want to continue to assert their white dominance in like the social sphere. And when really it continues to call to them and say, hey, like let's
listen,
let's hear it out. like because I don't, we don't have all the information, and we have like, and sadly, the hardest thing I feel or I see happening is that, when the concept of like, we're all racist on some level comes up, that's when everybody gets really uncomfortable, right? Like, oh, I know, not me. I have friends that are Black.
Right? Yeah. No, but that's the thing. Like, we're all racist. Like, if you're a minority, you're also racist. We all have it in us. It's just, you have to constantly dismantle it within yourself. You have to be aware of it. And it's not, I get how it's difficult. Nobody likes to feel like we're in the wrong. We all think we're good people, and we are, but like, that's what it is to be human. That's what it is to grow. We're constantly learning things from our surroundings that are either like useful or useless, and you have to like pick them apart and hold yourself accountable. It's just a part of being human.
Holding yourself accountable.
Yeah.
What a novel idea.
I know. I know. It sucks.
But yeah, and I think that okay, so part of it is that a lot of folks aren't used to being held accountable or holding themselves fully accountable for their situation, and we're bumping up against that amidst all of this.
Yeah.
And then like you said, there's a lot of if we can allow ourselves to get quiet and listen not only to the voices that are expressing the discontent and trying to outline their experience as human beings, that it's not an equal experience, it's not a fair experience that across the board, that we're finding out how tough it is to sit in our own situation where we're not always right, and we don't have an easy answer to make this go away.
Exactly.
We don't have that.
Yeah, that's the problem. I mean, I think it's easy to admit when you're wrong when you know how to fix it, Otherwise, you're just like, well, fuck. Like, it's terrifying. And so you rail against it. And I think that's where we've been at for like a really long time, because it's going to take sorry, I swear a lot. Is that
you
a
can
terrible
cuss
thing?
all the fucking much you want. It's fine.
Yeah, it's going to take decades. It already has to get to this point, which is insane, but it's going to take more, because it's not a little fix. It's like a million huge ones, But I think we'll get there, which is funny because I'm definitely a pessimist. And my motto is like, in the end, we all die. And that's like, it makes me feel good. But somehow I think we'll get there as a group, as humanity, as a little, yeah, I hope.
Yeah, I hope for some sort of, worldwide kind of peace treaty recognition, something like that. Also, I think that's it's a very fantastical, like wonderful dream. And I think the interesting thing is that I think that we're kind of mostly there without the media and the governments inciting violence.
Yeah. Jesus.
Right. I think that's the funny thing. You've traveled the world plenty, and like most of the places you go,
yeah,
like most people are going to greet you well, treat you well.
Yeah. Inclusive, kind, wonderful people. Yeah.
But the whatever the percent is, and it's a smaller percent of the world, isn't educated to that place, or wasn't shown, didn't have good examples on how to encounter and work with diversity and people that don't look exactly like you. But I think that there's an element, sadly, well, I don't say sadly, I just think that there'll always be some sort of tension that is in need of release, right? And so as much as like the utopian dream would be great, there's also and I think that we can get to a place of like vast wide acceptance while still having other challenges and tensions to release that kind of take the place. There'll always be some uneducated folk, though, and it to their, not a lot of times, not to their, like, not because of their own doing necessarily. Right. And I think kind of what you pointed out too is like, or what we're talking about, like when we say like all of us are a little racist, it's like the problem there is people taking too much ownership over that in a little bit, like you're saying that by my own volition, I don't believe that Black people should have the same. And it's not that. I think that people get confused real quickly there, that no, look, the system has, trained you from birth to view these things differently, and to to treat people differently based on fear tactics. And that's the constant thing. Like if we're at odds, if the people can't unite, then they won, period.
Exactly. That's the whole point. Separate, like, keeps us weak, you know? And so of course they're going to want to keep us in our own little groups, whatever they are. Like, of course they are. But I don't know. I feel like this is going to sound really dumb, but all we need are a couple of aliens, you know? Because then we'll all band together and just act like idiots towards the aliens, which isn't a good fix, but it's something.
I know what you mean, though. There's a lot wrapped up in an alien, like a true alien visitation, right? Like we would have a lot of religious folk having a hard time.
One side being like, kill them all. The other like, they're our friends. Yeah, no, that wouldn't solve anything. It would just be another mess. It's crazy. It's a crazy world.
How has it been, like, growing? I mean, because you grew up in Vancouver. That's your home, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, how has your experience been there? Do you feel mostly, because it's Canada, West Coast, Northern, like, does it feel kind of insular, like a little insulated in a way, or has it been there? Have you felt the effects of racism in your own town, and to a real negative degree?
I haven't personally, not here. I mean, it hasn't been like outright sort of angry racism towards me. There have been ignorant people who mean well, you know, and that's a form of racism, but it's all like, you just match that with sort of a teaching moment or kindness and it just goes away. Like, Vancouver's pretty gentle in that way, to my experience, but I have a lot of friends who would say something different, you know. Like, I personally am privileged growing up as I did and where I did, and as like, even as like a lighter skinned Black person, you get a different experience than like a darker skinned Black person. And like, it's not, and even the whole West Coast, East Coast thing, like, I think the reason why, like, it hasn't been so intense here for Black people, I mean, a lot of people are going to say that it has, but for me, is we don't really have that large of a community, you know, and people tend to get fearful and agitated when they feel a certain race is sort of surpassing them, or like, you know, or like taking over. Like, people get really freaked out, and it comes out in that sort of situation more often. So like on the East Coast in Toronto, Montreal, there's a large Black population, and there are definitely more problems because the two sides, which I don't think there should be sides, but there are sometimes, are clashing. Whereas here, I'm just kind of like, growing up, I was just an interesting little tidbit, you know, like who, yeah. So it's been all right for me. It has definitely not been all right for like the Indigenous people here. That's like, they are the Black people of Canada. You know, if you think of it in the American way.
Right. Yeah. I can only imagine.
Yeah.
It's like our Native Americans here. I mean, well, it's the same people, really. You know, these borders are just imaginary lines, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, and I wonder, from your viewpoint, like, what do you see as some first steps forward? I know we have there's a lot of suggestions and a lot of kind of ways to there's a lot of advice out there right now on how to be, you know, active, or how to greet this correctly, so to speak. But from I just curious hear about it from your perspective. Like, what would you like to see going forward? You know,
for Canada, I'd like to see us, I mean, we've started on this path, but like us stepping up and admitting like our past sort of wrongdoings and all of that when it comes to like the Indigenous people of Canada. That would be a great first step. For Black people, I guess, I don't know. It's so weird here. Like I can say what I hope for Americans, for sure, but I don't really want to. I'm not from there. Like it just seems a bit, who am I to say anything? I just wish people would, you know what? I just want people to listen more. I think everything, like all world problems would be solved if people just like really took the time to listen more and to take it in and to sort of sit with whatever new information is coming at you and try desperately to see it from their point of view. Because I've done the same when it comes to like right-wing people and even like racist people. Like I've tried to see it from their view, and I don't agree. I don't think it's right, but I can understand how they got there, and if they just did the same, I think we'd actually be able to have a conversation that ends up like moving forward rather than just shouting at each other. And yeah, that's it. I guess just like a conversation. And then, I mean, obviously change, hopefully, but I don't know. At this point, to be perfectly honest, I'm just fucking like tired. I'm tired. Like I'm tired of it. It's horrible. And even thinking of it, like I didn't think it would affect me this much because I'm here and it hasn't been that bad for me, but it's sad seeing anyone go through anything horrific, and like to watch the whole world sort of battling it out. I'm just fucking tired. So like I don't know, everything's kind of a mess in here. I don't even really know what would be the change or what I want to come from it. Obviously I want people to be like not murdered in the streets. Like
right.
That would be great, but I don't know. It's fucked.
That's an acceptable answer though, Ché. I mean, like, look, I mean, this is the thing. We're having the conversation, like, and I think listening to each other is like the first step. I think you're right on point. And that's still, for myself, I've had to just like realize that's like, when in doubt, just listen.
Yeah.
Because it's confusing. It's confusing as a lifelong advocate for all people of color. Like, and I feeling like not like just really waking up to it as a teenager and not understanding. I lived in a small little podunk cowboy town, and I was like one of the 3 or 5 kids that were actually into hip hop and had some sense of Black culture through the TV screen. And there was like 3 Black people in our high school, maybe 4 at one point, I don't know, but it was like and to kind of start waking up to that as a teen, and then just going, well, that's dumb. Like, I don't get it. It doesn't make sense. And they're not teaching me in high school, like, or in any school, like where it comes from, because it's all just like hush, hush, like, oh, well, this happened, now take a test on it.
Exactly.
This happened, take a test on it.
Right. It happened. Like, it's over. Like, of course, like, don't even get me started. No, I hear you.
Well, that's the thing. It's presented in such a way that it's like, yeah, it happened and there's nothing to do about it currently, except for take a test about it.
Yeah, exactly.
And that test is a weird part of the systemic underlying passive aggressive microaggression thing where it's like, okay, they're training you to feel like, oh, this is history. You don't have to do anything about this.
Yeah.
We're here now, and like we should look back on the people that got us here with, like, you know, golden rays, like, oh, thank you forefathers, thank you explorers, thank you. Yes, there were some bad things happen, but we're here now. Go buy something at Costco.
Yeah.
It's like, what? Wait, but my heart still hurts from the atrocities that,
like, how
that
would you not think it wouldn't be a lasting sort of ache, pain, like wound, you know? Of course it
yeah.
happened and it's over, but it's not over because nothing was really solved. It just was like the absence of the extreme, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what the shock and awe is a bit right now, I think, is that there's so many, it's been ingrained, especially into the white folk, or anybody identifying in that realm, that it's like, you know, racism was a long time ago. And like, you know, at worst, it was like in the 60s, you know, like we kind of got through that. And there's equal opportunities for everyone now. So like, why are we even talking about this? Blah, 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 you know? And I'm like, and that's because it's never been actually dealt with, and because it consistently is pushed in this subversive way. So you take a test about a thing in school, in reciting information that is glossing over the actuality of these events. And so time and time again, it's like this programming. Oh, no. Like, I took a test. I took social studies. I took history. I know this stuff happened, but we're here now. And it's like, yeah, yes, we are. And we're here now with a lot of built up genetic trauma from hundreds and hundreds of years. Yeah. And it was, I mentioned this in my last pod, but a friend of mine brought to my attention this amazing book called My Grandmother's Hands.
Who's
are you
the
familiar?
author of that? Yeah.
Resma Menakem. I'm probably butchering the name.
I don't know. I feel like, go on.
Hold on 1 second. I'm going to grab it. I'll be right back. So, Resma Menakem. This is the book here. And it's the subtitle is Racialized Trauma and the Pathway to Mending Our Hearts and Bodies. And I mean, I wanted to cry at the title. Like, I'm such a softie, and I will, one of the many ways that Dev and I connect is, you know, like the empathic conversations and the tendencies we have, right? And I don't know, the way that this man puts it in perspective is like he goes through a lot of the history. He says before, and he puts it all into white bodies, black bodies, police bodies, to get the verbiage in a place that is for us to actually process this and know that the trauma doesn't just live in the psyche of the person that experienced it, that we are now through advanced science knowing through epigenetics that trauma is passed down through DNA.
Wow, I didn't know that.
That's a real science, epigenetics. It's worth looking up. And one of the things that really is that I'm just, it's coming to light more and more as I get through this. I'm only about halfway through. Is the history part of learning the history lesson around, okay, before white bodies were inflicting pain and trauma on black bodies, we had hundreds of years of practice of inflicting on other white bodies that we deemed that were lesser than in Europe, right? So there was like before it was black bodies, it was Irish bodies, and it was Scottish body. It was anything that was kind of, they wanted to paint as other and a little less than human. got the similar kind of, oh, they're beasts, oh, they're this, you know, and kind of like this dehumanization part of it. And we made all the, you look at the medieval times, the Dark Ages, all these torture devices came out of this era. It like peeling people apart, all these different things. And so before we ever got to this land to start inflicting trauma on red bodies and black bodies and the whole story, we were
already
we were so good at doing it to ourselves, you know. And
garbage, man.
Garbage.
Horrible beings. Fuck.
Yeah. And so where, and he's one of the things that I'm learning about is clean pain and dirty pain. And through this book and his verbiage, and he explains dirty pain as when our trauma or our when we're in an uncomfortable place and then we blow that pain into another body, like right, like we act out and we react, and so we're increasing our own personal pain ultimately and passing it on. Dirty pain, right? And then but clean pain is when the uncomfortability comes up and we find some sort of ownership in it and we say, this can end with me.
Yeah.
It's more uncomfortable up front and there's deeper work that has to be done, but it ultimately brings us relief personally by confronting it. And I've just been sitting with that. I've been like on my walks with the dog, I'm listening to the book and the audiobook, and I read some at night. And it doesn't mean that I don't feel like I necessarily have answers, but I'm feel like I'm getting some context, you know, and also like waking up to the trauma that still lives in my own body, like from this lifetime, from my experiences as a child growing up and encountering a ton of different things along the way, but also just the concept of like, wow, how much trauma has my lineage even endured, you know, from its own undoing, its own aggression and an unchecked you know, everybody needs a counselor. Everybody needs somebody to talk to and like work their way through it, right? But that's not really happening for most people.
No, I mean, if we're the simple fact is nobody can afford a counselor, you know, like we're also in that position. Yeah, I hear you. Like we've all been through personal traumas, even like I can think of growing up and like my issues with not having a dad and then putting all of that anger and pain and all of that into like my first few boyfriends, transferring it. Like that was definitely my what was it called? Your dirty
pain.
Yeah, dirty pain. And it does take a lot of undoing to realize that it's like, it's really just all within you and you have the power to stop it. It takes a lot out of you. So I can understand why this fight has taken so long, you know, it's a much bigger fight, but I see the world kind of going into the sort of clean pain route. Like I see us starting on that path, at least some of us, a lot of us.
I think it just takes a majority, you know. I think because like I don't think we can clean it up, you know. Like it's like you can't make everything white and not black, or everything black and not white. You can't, right? Because we need like literally this world, our existence thrives on diversity. It thrives on the polar opposites and all the different gray areas in between. You know, it depends on it. Like but when there's a majority, even if it's just 51%, you know, then yeah, we're headed in a positive direction where we can have open dialogue. But I think we're I mean, this is, again, I don't know the actual numbers. I don't know if anybody ever could, but it would feel like, to me, my experience, and again, this is from a privileged white male living in North America who's been pretty fucking lucky most of his life.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's got to be like 80+% of people are good and mean well and are not actively intentionally racist.
No.
You know, like I think it's 80+%, maybe it's in the 90 percentile, but you know, like it's not been something, it's not normal, it hasn't been normalized up until recently to have these open dialogues, these open conversations where it's like, hey, these are would you consider this about yourself? Have you looked at this about yourself? Gosh, man, you know, maybe I haven't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate the conversation with you, and you sharing, you know, your experience.
Me too. I'm like, this conversation, not this one specifically, but like the conversation about race and all of that is draining and just, I don't know, really, really sort of stressful, but I think it's important to sort of push through it and try your best, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad we're talking about it.
Well, if you don't mind, I'll shift the conversation a little bit.
Would love to shift it. Yeah, let's shift it.
Yeah. One of the things that I like, well, this podcast was kind of based off of was just like is guitar picks.
Really?
Yeah. Players Pick podcast. It's based off, like, it was kind of like fun because I never heard anybody else actually talk at any length about guitar picks.
Yeah.
And so I know you don't always use guitar picks, but you use guitar picks sometimes, right?
No. So
no?
This is hilarious. I mean, I guess I've been.
I thought you used them a little bit. Maybe I was.
Nah.
Okay.
I mean, if I have to, if I'm like, this is when I use guitar picks. When I play with Devin and he's like, don't you think that might sound good with a pick? And I'm like, yes. And then I'll play it so softly that it's like nothing's happening. But I think it's just the fact that they amplify what I'm most insecure about. They stress me out, so I don't use them. But I think they're beautiful. And I like this podcast idea.
It's a jump off point, right? It's fun. It was something fun to because like I actually told a couple of, you know, pretty big name artists, I was like, hey, like, come be like a guest on my guitar pick podcast. They're like, how long can I talk about guitar picks? I don't even think about guitar picks. Like, oh, it's just a place. I just want to know your history with your guitar picks, you know, and like, because there's a pick culture out there that like really wants to know what you're using, what you started out using, how'd you get to be using what you're using, and why do you keep using it, you know, type of thing. And so I'll ask you, like, when you are asked to use guitar picks, do you use like the picks that Dev uses, or do you have something else laying around that you would prefer to use when you do have to use them?
Well, remember, okay, so you made a batch of Casualties picks?
Yeah.
That? Mm-hmm. So like, those are the ones I use because they're here and they're great. They're like bigger. I don't know what they're called. They're thicker. And if I can find them, I use them. Actually, this one pick, so the thumb picks, the thin ones, I really like those. Those are, I can get behind a thumb pick and like play it without being asked, I think. I lost it, so like I don't play with it anymore, but I did like that one.
That's cool. That's and those Casualty picks are a Dunlop Tortex Triangle 0.73.
Good to know.
Yeah. So kind of a medium gauge. But yeah, Dev has always loved the triangle, so I just always keep making those for him.
I just keep, and this is not original to say, but dropping them in the fucking hole. And it's super frustrating. So I just gave up. Yeah. That's
okay. A lot of people, I have a relatively decent amount of people on the pod that don't use picks anyway.
Really?
Yeah. But it's just like, I'm always like, even though that's kind of like one of the little tropes that I've used along the way, really it's I just want to have good conversations with good people,
Yeah.
and
It's a
it's
good
like,
icebreaker.
yeah, and with people that I know that are like going to be super, have something to say about it, and just be like, oh, back in the day, like I started here, my dad or my uncle gave me this, and then I used these, and then somebody, there's all these interesting things, like those are fun. We usually kind of get that out of the way up front, and then I try to like elicit some sort of life thing out of them, or but I just knew that you and I would just have a great conversation regardless, and it would just be like, what's going on, tell me, catch me up, and then we'd move through whatever was going on for you. But I want to bring up this Strapping Young Lad cover.
Okay. Yeah.
Just because it's amazing.
Aw.
Yeah.
Come out.
I'm so thankful that you do something so cool. I mean, all your stuff is cool, but that was like, I just wasn't expecting it, so it was really cool.
Thanks. I actually really liked it too. Surprising. I didn't mean to do that song. There was a different one I had in mind. And then I didn't, because there was all of this sort of pressure to get that other one done. I was just like, I don't want to do it. I'm just going to fuck around with this. And then I did. And when you sort of get trapped in that whole, like hours pass and you're just obsessed with this one song, that happened for a couple days. And I really like how it turned out. And I was like left to my own devices. And usually I have someone helping me like mix, and when I don't want to play guitar, which is always, I'm like, maybe you play this part, but like there was nobody here, and there's something really nice about having a cover song with like an unofficial release date where you don't think anybody's really going to listen, and so you just do whatever it is you think sounds cool, and then the fact that there's no pressure around it, I think makes it that much better. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. And so you have a few more songs that you're going to finish for this EP, and
yeah. I think I've got one or two originals that originals, man, it's hard to like let them go, I'm just doing that. And then I was going to do the actual Devin song that I was going to do. And then I might just keep going just for fun, just release covers or originals like every couple weeks, just because, good practice. It's definitely good practice with like production, which I really am pretty passionate about. So, yeah.
You mentioned that like this was the first, this recent Dev song, the Strapping song was maybe your first hand at like really mixing yourself. Is that that your full mix? And
yeah, it is.
Cool.
I guess. I mean, I've mixed other things, but then I never feel confident enough to release them, so I always like hand them over to someone else, and I'm like, you just redo it. But I didn't do that with this one, and I kind of like it. I think
it came out great.
Yeah.
I think it sounds like that you're kind of like at a place now where you've done enough, and you kind of know what you want to hear better than maybe you had in the past. And like, I know that feeling where you're like, oh, I want somebody else to like validate it a little bit, like
just take it off my hands.
Yeah. Don't make me responsible for this whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So if it's really good, like, great, my team is amazing. If you hate it, then like, hey man, it wasn't all me, man. Like, like,
yeah,
a little bit of that.
No, it was nice to actually like take a risk on this one. I'm glad you liked it. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, I'm a fan, and the fact that you get to do this kind of looking back at Dev and doing some of his material, I don't know, it's just like a cool thing to do because you guys have a great history together, and
it's really beautiful because I tend not to listen to the music of people that I work with, just because I have my own little sort of niche like thing that I love over here, and I like listen to that, but like I'm not really in the prog world or the metal world. Like I don't gravitate to that. So I'd never really heard any of his stuff aside
Mm-hmm.
from Empath because I played it.
Mm-hmm.
And so this was a pretty cool exercise, like having all those songs to go through to just pick a cover. I was introduced to like a side of Devin that I never knew, you know?
Yeah.
He's more just like a friend that you work with. He was lovely, but yeah, no, it was pretty cool going through his whole catalog.
I have my own experience in that way where even though I was a fan of a bunch of his work when I first met him as somebody to work with, like we kind of met for a second as me as a fan as a younger person, and then I didn't stay up with all of his material, and then like we met around the time when he was finishing Ghost and Deconstruction, and like he's such a fun, personable, friendly guy to hang out with, and then if you're in the good graces and you just like I'd forget all the time, oh, I'm hanging out with Devin Townsend, the guy that like I previously had idolized in all these other ways, and then I'm hanging out and I'm like, oh yeah, you're also the guy that slays on like the best like metal vocal like singer guy I could even ever ask for in any lifetime. Like that's my opinion. And I'm like, I can listen to all these other people do a similar thing, but then I hear Dev do it and I'm like, yeah, you win, dude. I don't know. Like you win. And I've multiple times through the years, I'm just like, okay, well, it's really interesting because I'll catch myself like kind of in a way where I'm in my own niche. I'm like, oh, but it's Dev. Okay, cool. Like we'll have this conversation and do the thing. And then somebody, it usually is like in my feed, like somebody's like, anybody listen to this Devin Townsend or this strapping thing in a while? I'm like, oh no, I actually haven't. Oh shit. That's my friend. That's cool. You know, and I kind of,
kind of nerd out a little bit, or like
I get to nerd out and go backwards and then forwards, and like I'm like, oh, that's right. Because I remember the first time seeing him with Vi on MTV, like eons ago, Headbangers Ball or something. And I was like, who is this weird guy that Vi has? Like, he's a goof, I don't even understand what's going on here.
Is that when he had the like shaved head everywhere, but at the top, and it was like in a ponytail or
it's like
something?
Little Hare Krishna type like ponytail thing back here. Yeah.
Hairstyles.
It was super eccentric for even the metal crew, in the late 80s and going into the 90s type of vibe at the time. But
it's got good hair. Even his skullet.
The skullet.
As that was, it's dig it.
Yeah. Yeah. The one thing that I could always say is like, and I really, I guess, it's like maybe the biggest kind of inspiration from Devin is that he has always been himself, just straight up himself. Like, and I think above and beyond all the great creativity and like all the like all this great music that he has given the world, I think that's the greater gift. I think that's the greater gift is he's like, I could go do the thing with Nickelback. I could go write I could bend to your, but I'm not gonna. I just can't do it. Not interested at the end of the day. I'm just gonna do my thing and keep going.
Yeah, I love that about him. I think that's why we get along so well, because I feel like I do that just in life. And it's hard to do because a lot of the time you're sort of like marching to your own beat alone because your beat's so out there. But I mean, if we were all this carbon copy of each other, like what fucking, how would that be interesting at all? So I really respect him for doing that. Yeah. And taking chances. Like all of his albums, not all of them, but a lot of them are so vastly different from each other, And I really respect that about music. I feel like if you do that, there's a chance of longevity because you don't get sick of yourself as quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point you bring up. I think that especially for those that are out there marching to their own beat, their own drum, they're carving out something. Could be, musically, could be, their own business model or whatever it is. When you're doing something that is, there's not a clear model or example of, that's like, I have so much respect for that, because you there's so many times where you're under the gun and you're feeling like, oh, I should just quit. I should give this up.
Yeah.
What, nobody's listening. Nobody cares. And I don't even know how to reach the people that I think that might be enjoying this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, yeah, it's like, because otherwise you could just drop what you're doing, and there's plenty of business models out there that you could copy that would, most likely be successful.
Yeah, sustain you through life. Yeah, easily.
But what kind of, then you have to live with yourself,
Yeah.
just doing the thing that everybody else did. For some folks, I get it. Like, that's fine. It's like if they have a different attachment or different connection to what they do, but usually the creative folks like yourself and Dev, like, kind of have to, like, no, it's either I do it my way, or I'm just like I'm gonna go do something completely different.
I'm out. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm out.
And it is like a daily struggle. Like, should I just quit? Like, this is hard and like sometimes painful, because you're putting something out that is essentially like your soul or your baby, even if you don't like it, which sometimes we don't like our souls at times. It's, but it is you. Like, you just, there's no other alternative. And so I've heard Devin say a lot that, like, music for him is like a compulsion. And I can completely relate to that, because if I had the ability to just stop doing it and not care and feel good about just like having some like normal 9 to 5 and being able to like consistently feed myself, I would totally do that. But I've tried, and you slowly die, and so that's not really an option. So here I am.
Yeah, he's also mentioned to me, I love that you bring that up, because in addition to that kind of statement of it being a compulsion, like every once in a while we pick up the phone. He's like, how's things going? Are you writing, buddy? Are you playing guitar? And I'm like, oh yeah, like at different times I'm like, yeah, but not a lot right now, this or whatever. And a couple times he mentioned in different ways, like, he's like, well, isn't that, if you don't have anything to say, isn't that kind of a blessing? Like, if you're not feeling compelled to have to get, he's like, I know that it seems like everybody that's doing music and putting out music on a regular thing are the ones that are actually getting somewhere or doing something, but like, maybe we're the ones that are still cursed with having to do this.
Yeah. I resonate with that.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious, what have you been listening to, like, maybe recently, or what, and if you could share, like, maybe if there's any artists that you might think, that we might benefit from hearing about.
Who have I been listening to? Okay. Well, I'm not too sure the name of this band. It's like, is it like Old Crow Medicine Show? Where's my phone? 1 second.
That sounds familiar. Old Crow Medicine Show. Yeah. Yeah. I think I've heard of them.
I see that a lot, which it's great. It's beautiful. It's like bluegrass. Where is it?
Yeah, Old Crow Medicine Show.
But it is, yeah. It's an older album though. It's like this one album called, let's see if I can find it. Where is it? Big Iron World. The album, yeah.
Big Iron World?
Yeah. It's
I see it.
So fucking good.
Okay.
I love it. And then I've also been listening to LP. And I'm like, it's like poppy but powerful, and just like it like makes you want to clean your house, and like you have to clean your house because you can't leave the house. And so it's just been good for this. It's been real good for this.
So the pop artist LP?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so awesome. I mean, she's a good friend of one of my favorite yoga teachers in LA.
Really?
And she practices. I mean, I'm not in LA now. I moved back home to North California to Chico. I moved like about a month ago.
Whoa.
But which is an interesting change all in itself. But I was just about less than a mile from Yoga Works Larchmont, and LP practices at Yoga Works Larchmont all the time.
That's
and
your
she's
mom.
like, no, we were like in class together next to each other a lot.
What?
Yeah, so Joe Cara, shout out to Joe Cara, one of my favorite yoga teachers in all of LA. Great dude. Even better beard. Like, he's a great dude, but his beard like is epic. But LP and him are great friends, and he and Joe worked at Capitol Records for a long time and became a yoga teacher sideline. And it's kind of funny, as I moved to LA and people were starting to get to know me, they're like, oh, you're in the music business and you do yoga and teach yoga. I'm like, you must love Joe Cara. I'm like, I don't know Joe Cara, but and so like 10 different people were like, dude, you need to go hang out with Joe Cara. And I was like, okay. Finally made it to his class. And I was like, oh, I get it. Like, I do love this dude. And we're similar, but just adjacent. And with the first day I was there, he was like, hey, meet my friend LP. And I didn't know anything about her.
What the fuck?
Yeah. And then I was like, and then I went home. And she's like, you should look her up on Spotify. I'm like, oh my God, she's rad and huge. Like a huge artist.
Yeah.
No clue.
She's amazing. Her voice. Oh my God. Her voice is crazy.
Like, I mean, am I the only one? I can't be the only one that gets a little bit of Stevie Nicks vibe from her.
I've never really considered her. I mean, I'm going to listen with that in mind now. Yeah. But what was
like different context.
Yeah, definitely. She like the way she uses her voice though, at first, when I first heard it, I was like, you kind of are a mix between Gwen Stefani and Shakira, which is weird. Like, I would never, they're not, both of those two people are not my favorite. And like, I feel like she surpasses them definitely, but just her like style. And I thought she was like this like Spanish, like it's crazy to sort of listen to her music and then to read up on her. She's so fucking cool. Like, if I could be someone in this world, LP. Yeah.
Ooh, bold statement. I like it. That's amazing.
I don't know. She writes all her own stuff. Like, I think she started out as a songwriter. I think that's what it was for everyone.
Sounds right. A lot of I'm glad to see that like actually a significant amount of like behind the scenes songwriters have made it into the limelight. Like, I mean, just what's her name? The big
Sia?
one. Oh, is Sia one as well?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. But the
I don't know.
Oh, it's like the really big one that I'm having such a brain aneurysm right now.
It doesn't matter.
You know, she's a big, huge pop artist, had the nose job.
She had a nose job.
Blonde, but like it was in the. I'm gonna get murdered. Everybody is like watching this, going, "It's her, dummy." But she was just in that movie as the co-lead.
Lady Gaga.
Lady Gaga. God,
right.
Jesus, like that's the worst. She was yeah, I think she had a nose job back in the day. Like, it was a little bit more pronounced and she like took it in a little bit. But I just remember when she was first breaking out that there was quite a few little stories like spun around how she had written a ton of music for other people.
Yeah.
And they were all those songs were slaying. And then it was like somebody in her crew along the line said, "Oh, no, I think you should do this next batch of songs."
Yeah.
And she's like, "Nah," she kind of tried to get out of it, I think. But now here she is all these years later, like superstar.
I like that. That's pretty cool.
She seems to have a good heart and like seems to be, be on the right side of things. I don't know. As best as you can tell. I don't know either. Yeah. It's like you tell me a story that's really fantastical these days. I'm like, yeah, probably.
Like I'll hope that's true.
I hope it's true.
Yeah.
Well, that's also one of the interesting sides of we're faced with it again here where can you separate art and the artists? There's all these different stories. There's the Me Too movement where you're dealing with like people like Ryan Adams, or you're dealing with people like Drake, any number of people where they're huge artists and they've got a huge body of music and they're so popular that people will continue to support the thing because and bypass like the things that they've done, which on one level I'm like, can you bypass that? Like these people are messaging young girls and like trying to get to elicit this response, or is it okay to let a couple of these artists suffer from the thing that they've done? You know, I mean, like unless they're doing it, you know.
Yeah, I feel like, well, for me personally, I understand like you're gonna like good music or good films. You're gonna like there's nothing wrong with that. Like obviously you're gonna love it if it's good, but your money, like giving over your money to anything, sort of like, what am I trying to say? It's like you're basically making it acceptable. That's how you're voting, you know. And does that make sense? Like,
Yeah.
If I love Ryan Adams's music. I do.
Same.
It's absolutely amazing. But am I gonna buy an album from him now that I know what I know? Probably not, because it basically means like, oh, I can look past that. Here's like $20, and I don't feel comfortable doing that. Like Woody Allen movies, like he makes great films, but
yep.
I can't support that either. So I guess I'm just going to miss out on a couple movies. Like, I think it's more important to show people what you'll accept, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it, well, and then there's this, I'm with you on all that. I mean, I love Ryan Adams' music, and I the Love Is Hell EPs. Fuck everything. There's so many good songs on that, and throughout his catalog, he's stupid. But yeah, ever since the information, I'm kind of like, all right, man. I'm just not doing that anymore, you know. Like, and there's like a little silent prayer. I'm like, dude, figure yourself out. Like, please, like you. And this is the thing that where I guess like the empathic side of me wants to say, yeah, I'm not giving you my money, but I don't want to cancel you. Like I don't believe in ruining your life necessarily if it's a forgivable offense that you can do time. You know what I mean? Like, and even when somebody does something that's beyond my forgivability or whatever, I still think I'm like, okay, these are the people that need a big dose of love and compassion and understanding to try to pull them over to the middle towards back towards sanity. And I guess the same could be said in our political landscape. You know, it's like go ahead.
I agree. I feel like there is sort of there's a step in between those two, you know, like when you think about, like, for example, when you think about like alcoholism, like usually before you do anything about it, you have to hit rock bottom. You have to sort of feel that sort of desolate, like, landscape and everything, you know, and that inspires you to want to change and to look at yourself. Like usually you have to hit that rock bottom. So I feel like what's the word, prematurely giving that sort of like forgiveness too soon, almost it doesn't allow them to hit that spot of self-reflection or being like, oh, what I did is really bad because here's the result, you know, like I guess that just means that they basically need to admit fault, and usually before you admit fault, you're shown by the world that what you've done was unacceptable and horrible, you know, or otherwise you just keep lying to yourself. And am I making sense? I'm rambling.
No, you're actually 100% on, and I will say that is a beautiful addition to this conversation, because I do believe that if you're to kind of like reconcile and make a change in your life, that you need to feel the weight of your actions and your effect on others.
Yeah.
Like, and that's why it's so important to have community, because the community can self-police to a pretty high degree.
Yeah.
You know, the village used to be the police, you know, like throughout the ages, like, and there are still lots of stories of like indigenous villages and groups that are together, that's how they inflict kind of punishment on people, is they all come together and go, hey, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, you don't get to treat us that way.
Yeah.
You need to go think about what you've done, you know, and then and pull them back towards center through a bit of shame, through a bit of like, hey, like you know, you've let us down.
Yeah.
But it's all, the foundation is love. The foundation is caring for the person.
Totally
And saying, hey, look, you know, like, this is where we're at.
Yeah.
And we can't have you acting in this way and be a functional, we accept that you've done this, that this part of who you are, but you know, and it's a delicate balance, and it's because there's a lot of emotions on both sides, and the easy out that I see, especially in the political sphere now, is like, oh, if you're you know, if you're still supporting Trump or these politics, then unfriend me now, you know, like, get out. And sure, the surface level me can go, okay, I get it. You know, you're entitled to your own, how you want to curate your feed and curate your life, right? Like,
yeah.
but that's an easy out. And that means that's telling me how shallow you kind of are, you know, to a degree, because it means that you're only interested in your own echo chamber.
Yeah.
You know, and that's comfortable. That's not uncomfortable. That's moving away from growth versus going, okay, I grew up with these people. We have difference of opinion. And if I were to listen, see, the leftists have to listen to the right people, like, and it's got to happen. And I think that's one of the travesties in this, is that like the liberals really think so, they feel so emboldened and like, we're right. I don't have to listen to your rhetoric, and you don't. But if we're going to move through this, then
we're going to have a conversation, and you do.
Yeah.
And
you got to listen.
Yeah.
And I think hearing somebody's pain through that, like, because you can put it together, you know, say, oh, well, I believe this way. I am in this realm, because you can kind of put it together, and then hopefully have a real conversation that moves each other forward. Hopefully.
No, I agree. I feel the same way. I mean, I get people who do like unfriend, because it can be really intense. And like Facebook and Instagram and all like the social media things, like, that is not real life. You know, that's just a feed on your computer. You can't, like, when you're having real conversations with humans in the same room, people you know or acquaintances, like, obviously you can't just like hide them from your like life feed, right? So I feel like that's where the real change can come from. Like, this is just like, it is an echo chamber. It is. I've definitely deleted people who just post like pro-Trump things over and over again, because like, for me, social media is about entertainment, because it's bullshit and it's not real life, you know. But when I'm face to face with somebody who has a different opinion, and we're having a conversation, like, I try my best to listen, and I try my best to explain myself, which is very difficult for me. It just is. But I think that's where change will come. That's what change will come from. That, you know?
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I think that doesn't mean, my stance isn't saying to leave all those people in your feed and just take it, you know, like that. I think you definitely have to be discerning. And there is, I mean, I've parted ways with plenty of people in the social sphere as well, because it's a distraction from doing work with people that where there can actually be something resolved, you know. And I don't, not that every person in my feed I feel like I can work anything out with or resolve anything with them, or even change their mind at all. But if I'm living the life that I aspire to live, then, and I'm sharing bits and pieces of that, then hopefully they'll see a little bit of it. Yeah. Hopefully that inspires them to even, not even necessarily change, but just ask better questions.
I totally agree with that.
You know? Yeah. And especially it's the people that, like, friends and family that have kind of been around a long time, that kind of, now when this stuff up, that you start to see, and they're taking sides. And I got a couple of family members that are just like, I can't say anything without them thinking that I'm attacking them, and I have to have all these back room conversations, like, look, I'm not attacking you. Mm-hmm. This is just how I see it. If you want to have a conversation with me, super down to have the conversation, but you don't get to come on my page and then try to slay everybody and then be upset when all my friends come and slay you, like, it's like, you don't get, it's not, either you're civil and like you want to find a middle path with people, or you're just mad, and that's okay. You can be mad, but go do that on your own thing. And then, like, there's God. Everybody has to moderate their friends in the conversation the way they see fit, and pick your battles, I guess.
I hear you. That it almost makes you not want to post anything political, but that you can't do that. That's,
right.
Silence is violence. It is as simple as that. It is. It's such a, like, I feel super lame saying it because it rhymes, and I'm just not. But like, it's true. And sometimes you have to have some very frustrating, awkward conversations with people.
Well, I would shift that statement, the silence is violence thing, and I would and give it I would say it depends, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I'll just say, a lot of motherfuckers out there shouldn't be saying fucking shit about shit because they don't know shit about shit. So them speaking up isn't necessarily adding to the conversation.
I agree.
So they can be quiet for a little bit. And get back on that listening train until they actually have, like, substance and, like,
that's not going to sort of statement. Yeah.
Correct. Right. So, and I think that's why, like, step one, everybody that doesn't have, like, a direct, like, that is, like, I think we just all need to listen. Like, step one is listening, and that is silence for a little bit. And your silence might be longer than the next person's or shorter than the next person's until you actually have a place to step up and say something. And even if you've waited a year and a half and studied and read all the books and listened to all the lectures and all the stuff, and then you finally have something to say and it comes out wrong and somebody corrects you, no problem. Hey, we're still learning. Like, you're not supposed to know.
Yeah.
Because you're now actively engaging in the conversation.
Yeah.
But you can't, I don't say you can't, but, like, you can't expect just because you read all the stuff and you think you formed an opinion that you're going to be right when you say it, or, it's fine to be wrong. It's okay. Like,
I'm wrong all the time. I'm wrong like 90% of the time. I think if you expect that you're wrong, life is a bit easier, It's a lot of learning to do.
I think I love a quote. I think it's Alan Watts, that he says, when you admit, I don't know, I'm paraphrasing, when you admit you're wrong, you're sure to be right.
Yeah.
You're sure to be right, because you're like, in admitting that, you're like, okay, like, I don't know. And in that you're automatically in the right, and you can take the next positive step forward from that. Okay, well, I was wrong. Like, how did that happen? And where does that leave me?
That's the thing. Yeah. I feel like maybe this comes from childhood for all of us, but, like, in our society, it is not okay to say, I don't know. So we're reaching and reaching and reaching for, like, and half of the time we don't even believe our own bullshit. We're expected to be confident, fill the space, and know everything. And it's just,
what a burden.
It's a fucking burden. I don't know what's going on basically ever, and I don't think any of us really do.
I think you hit it right there. I mean, that's like one of the main, well, because we're, like, yeah, from early age, you're shamed for not being right or not having the right information. And so you learn to try and be sure of something. And then when you kind of step up or you have to be sure, even if it's not right, you just like, if you say it with authority, then everybody's like, oh, well then I feels like I'm right. And I win this little round. And that sends a whole slew of false like things through our system.
Posturing.
Posturing and trying to be right versus, just seeking to understand, like, can we understand what the situation is first, and be willing to be like, just say, I don't know. I just don't know. Yeah. And so maybe I'll either work with you to find what the right answer is, or I'll just be uncomfortable not knowing. And that's,
Yeah. I mean, if you don't know, at least you're open.
Right. Yeah. Then there's something to work with. There's nothing. That's one of the things that I think that the conversations that we're having, the open conversations that we get to have every once in a while around all the big subjects that are happening right now, is those conversations hopefully are disarming the folks that feel very full of knowledge and very full and like very sure of their rightness in the subjects. Hopefully the skilled conversationalists that I would hope that you and I are, labeled as will help, at some point. But through our example of being, it's not necessarily that we're the best conversationalists ever, but our openness and willingness to have a conversation is an interesting example. Then they're set that disarms some of the sureness of others that are like, no, I'm really sure. Are you? Because I'm not. I just want to be clear that I'm not sure, but I'm willing to have the conversation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you let down your armor, it inspires others around you to like gently, slowly let down theirs.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You're so sweet. You're so awesome. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. This is fun.